Hello everyone, myself Assistant Professor Vatsal D. Patel from Civil Engineering Department working at Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technical Education and Research Center Navsari. Today we are going to discuss about finding solutions. So let's see how to find solutions. Contributors approach the various situations in their life and workplace with a unique mindset. This mindset we call the contributor mindset. So, the first aspect of the contributor mindset is the contributor's willingness and capacity to find solutions. So, if we see this as a engineering or say education point of view, I want to ask you one question. Does a higher education mean only study of material science and turning out things of everyday use by machinery only? No, the use of higher education is to find out how to solve the problems of life, and this is what is engaging the profound thought of the modern civilized world. But it was solved in our country thousands of years ago. The education which does not help the common mass of people to equip themselves for the struggle for life, which does not bring out strength of character, a spirit of philanthropy, and the courage of a lion, is it worth the name? So let's see some design solution for it. So here non-contributor type person will think like, I don't care if we don't complete on time or the quality is not good. I follow strict procedures. And contributor type person will think like, let us find a way to achieve the goal. So here we can see that non-contributor type person not think about the quality of work. They only want to complete their work anyhow. They don't care about procedure of doing that work. They only want to complete their work in given time. They not care about the goal of the work. Whereas contributor type person want to find way to achieve the goal. They want to achieve their goal with the regulation of their work. They want to give their best work within the time limit by finding different solutions to achieve the goals. So from this we can learn that non-contributors are often rigid about the procedure or their own way of doing things instead of focusing on the goal. Whereas contributors are focused on goals and find appropriate methods to achieve them within the framework of the system and rules and regulation of it. So we can say that contributor type person want to achieve quality of work and non-contributor type person have chalta hai type attitude in their work. So let's understand it with another example. So here non-contributor type person will think like there are only two ways. We must choose one of these. And contributor type person will think like, can we look for a third way that combines the best of both choices? So here we can see that non-contributor type person only want to try one way to solve the problem. There are many ways of finding the solution of the problem, but they only want to try out old ones which are running from so many years. They have different choices, but they do not want to try out new things. Whereas contributor type person want to consider all the ways of finding the solution. If there are two ways of solving the problem, then they want to try out for the third way which combine the benefit of both the ways. So they want to find alternative choices or ways to solve the problems. So from this we can learn that Non-contributors do not consider new possibilities in their thinking, whereas contributors consider new or say alternative possibilities in their thinking. Let us see one more example. Here we can see that boss is asking his subordinate that can this be done? So the non-contributor type person started giving different excuses about that work, and the contributor reply like, why not? Let us find a way to do it. So from this we can learn that non-contributor type person discussing the difficulties involved to accomplish the goal and are afraid of doing the new things and to find a way to reach it. Whereas contributor type person begin with the assumption that the goal needs to be achieved, and for that they want to find ways to achieve it. So non-contributor type person afraid of trying new things, whereas contributor type person have can do type attitude in them. Let us understand it with one more example. So here we can see that non-contributor type person fear of failure when trying new things and think like, I will lose confidence. What will happen to my image? I can't even imagine the consequences. And the contributor type person will think like, failure will become a stepping stone to success. This experience will help us improve the project or product. Whether there is success or failure, I will become stronger and wiser through the experiment. So from this we can learn that non-contributors have fear of try out new things. They think like in trying out new things they will lose confidence in themselves if there is no success in new work. They think like what will happen to their image if they fail in their work. They think like people will consider them as a loser and their image in society will be destroyed. And also they can't imagine what consequences they may face when they do not get success and get failure in their life. Whereas contributor type person take failure as a stepping stone to success. They think like if they fail in their work, the experience which they get during that work will help them to improve in their project or a product or a say work. They think like no matter what they get success or failure in their life, they become stronger and wiser through the experience. So we can say that non-contributors have fear of failure. For them, life is about safety and protecting themselves, whereas contributors overcome their fear of failure. For them, life is an adventure and full of challenges. So when you overcome your fear of failure, your willingness to try out new things increases. Okay. So now let's see story of the post-it to understand this concept in detail. So in 1968, Dr. Spencer Silver, a chemist with 3M, their company name, okay, in his attempt to develop a strong adhesive, managed to develop only a weak adhesive. Dr. Spencer, instead of being embarrassed of his discovery, shared it with his co-workers to find a use for it. For 5 years, he promoted it within 3M, but without much success. Dr. Spencer Silver said, if I had thought about it, I wouldn't have done the experiment. The literature was full of examples that said, you can't do this. Later on, in 1974, a colleague of his named Art Fry, who had attended one of his seminars, found a use of this weak adhesive as bookmarks. After investing one more year in product development, Fry was able to come up with the first version of what is now known as Post-it. Art Fry said, my mind was drifting back to music when I got that flash of an idea. Eureka! I think I can make bookmarks by applying Dr. Spencer's adhesive, so they can be stuck on and peeled off without spoiling the book. So, Post-it went on to become a huge world success. And in 1977, 3M launches the product in 4 cities. The response is disappointing. In 1978, 3M issues free samples. 95% of people using them said they would buy it. In 1980, 3M debuted in US stores as Post-it Notes. And in 1981, Post-its are launched in Canada and Europe. So if we talk about it, most of us are now using that product also, popularly known as sticky notes. So they converted weak product in a new product. So the practice of designing solution leads to innovative thinking in organization. Like if we talk about this case, Dr. Spencer did not fear failure. Thus he was willing to keep presenting his failed discovery in different forums. His persistence eventually resulted in him connecting with Art Fry in one of these forums. Art Fry, on his part, wanted an answer to his own problem. He redefined the utility of the entire discovery and came out with an alternative use of the weak glue. So think of an example where you or someone you know were able to find a solution to the problem by persistently trying different approaches to arrive at a solution until you succeeded. Think about what was the situation. What were the obstacles and failure faced? What was the response to this failure? What was the final outcome? What was the final outcome? So let us understand finding solution with one case study. Nikhil, a computer engineer, was on a visit to his village. He was distressed to see the people of his village being squeezed and by middlemen. The farmers were not getting fair price for their produce. So Nikhil started thinking about it. Why can't we connect farmers to the marketplace directly using technology? That will eliminate the influence of middlemen on them. And Nikhil was excited. He didn't think this would be too hard as he was a computer engineer. Thinking this was a great idea at hand, he worked out a complete business plan. To get started, Nikhil passed the word around in the village, calling for a meeting of all farmers. However, other than the local coordinator, no one turned up for the meeting. Moreover, the middleman didn't take the matter lightly. Nikhil again started thinking about it. This is terrible. Nothing can be done here. I am better off back in my corporate job. But again he made up his mind and think, no, if I don't make this vision happen for my people, then who will? It is not going to be easy, but I can and must find a solution. Nikhil regrouped engineers or say energies, not engineers, energies, and readied himself for a long struggle. He began meeting farmers regularly, individually, and in groups. He also met some of the middlemen and shared with them ways in which they could benefit from from and support this effort. Seeing his persistence, more villagers joined in. They run a pilot with 10 farmers using the technology to get connected to the marketplace. These 10 farmers then became advocates to other farmers in the village. The movement caught on, more and more people got involved. 3 years later, not only were most of the farmers in that village using this technology, but neighboring villages had also begun replicating this. So, from this, we can understand that Nikhil took responsibility for finding a solution to the situation. He believed that solution can be found. Thus, even though he faced many difficulties, he struggled with the solution until he found answers. In the workplace, often we are faced with challenges with no easy solution. So think about as a contributor, what are some strategy or tips you can learn from Nikhil's approach? Okay. So let's see one more example of finding solution with case study of preventing accidental deaths. Dr. Venkat was receiving many road accident cases in his hospital. These accidents were happening about a kilometer's distance from his hospital. Though he tried all medical measures to save the victims, there were still a high number of deaths. His colleague came and said, one more accidental death. Dr. Venkat replied, I don't think we have an answer to this situation in the hospital. And Dr. Venkat studied the factors affecting the severity of accident to diagnose the causes and go to traffic police and said, too many road accidents are happening here, so many deaths. And traffic police replied, when vehicle coming from opposite direction collide, then the accidents are bad. Most cases here are due to this. The road outside his hospital did not have a road divider. Having identified a root cause, Dr. Venkat worked closely with the traffic police to get a divider installed. Later on, the number of accidents came down drastically. So, from this, we can understand that Dr. Venkat's functional goal as a doctor was to cure patients, but he set another goals for the cause that he saw at a human level, and that motivated him to take the efforts to find the cause and find a non-medical solution to the challenge. And as we know, need of divider can be easily found out by traffic police, but it was identified by a doctor. So contributors bring new thinking to old problems. Let's see one more case study of eye care system. Arvind calls itself an eye care system as it goes beyond the delivery of pure eye care to additionally address barriers to accessing care. The company on a daily basis seeks to deliver better eye care to populations far removed from the urban centers. To achieve this goal, it continuously works on two main areas: its outreach to the rural population and cost of eye care. Arvind adopts active rural outreach. It holds eye camps in which it registers patients, administers eye examinations, teaches eye care, and identifies people who may require surgery. To bring eye care costs down and make it available to people who cannot afford it, Arvind intensely focuses on increasing productivity, such as standardizing and streamlining surgeries. The system relies on intensive specialization to generate efficiency. A surgeon typically performs 150 cataract surgeries every week, 6 times the number common among Western specialists. To further lower cost, Arvind has created a sister organization to manufacture lenses, drugs, etc., which are required for medical purpose, locally at prices one-fifth of US prices. All these measures have greatly helped reduce cost. In addition, it has made cross-subsidization an integral part of its business model. Thus, despite the constraints of poverty, Arvind has built a systematic solution to a complex social and medical problem. So, from this, we can learn that Arvind hospitals wanted to make affordable eye care accessible to the rural population of the country. To achieve this, they continuously found ways to reduce costs and improve efficiency in the way eye care is done. So, contributors can build systematic solutions to complex social problems. Now let's talk about the world famous The Gold Corp Challenge. In 1983, Rob McEwen took over an old underperforming gold mine in Red Lake district of Ontario. This mine had very high operating costs and production was very low. Our district had many mines, all of which produced a lot of gold. The mine next door had produced 10 million ounces. I was convinced that there was gold in our mine too. We only had to get more people thinking on how to locate it. Once McEwen attended a Linux conference. Here he got to know of the idea of open innovation, which triggered the idea of the Gold Corp Challenge. He realized, wow, world-class programmers coming together to develop software. That is what I want. World-class experts working towards identifying digging sites in our mines. So he said, we did something that the mining industry never tried before. We released all our confidential mining data online. Experts across the globe were invited to work on it and tell us where to dig. And the prize was a total of $575,000. Within weeks of launching of Gold Corp Challenge, Submissions of 1,200 people from 50 countries came flooding. Geologists, mathematicians, consultants all got involved. There were capabilities I had never seen before in the industry. I almost fell off my chair when I saw the submissions. The contestants has identified 110 targets, 50% of which had not even been previously identified by the company. We hit the goal. So from this we can learn that by redefining his challenge as how to bring in more experts to identify gold yielding sites, McEwan made the problem into one where he knew what to do about it. McEwan was also able to identify an approach being used by software developers and adapt it to solve a problem in his own field of work, or say mining. So to find solution to complex problems, many organizations use brainstorming. These are idea generation sessions in which people from diverse backgrounds from within or outside the organization come together to discuss the problem. So contributors are ready to use collective intelligence to design solutions to complex problems. And last, I only want to say that we want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's own feet. So here I end my session. Thank you all of you.